I like to do what's called a gap analysis. I'm Yousuf Siddiqui, CEO and founder of Edge Careers, and we are career strategists. And a big part of developing career strategies for the people that we work with is doing a gap analysis. So a gap analysis focuses not only on strengths, which are of course important, but also on knowledge, experiences, and skills. Those are all separate things, and going through each of them helps you understand where your gaps are, what you need to work on. Most of us know what our strengths are. We look at patterns in our past. What have we been applauded for? What have we been good at? What projects have we really thrived in? And what environments, what cultures, et cetera. Most of us know this, and they're part of a typical career guidance conversation, let's say. And that, I think that's incomplete, because it's not only about your strengths, but it's also about, why do you think they're your strengths? So I was on a project, and I got a lot of praise for being a good collaborator. So is it that you collaborated well with the people on that particular project? And why so? What people do you work well with? And were there projects where you didn't collaborate well, right? So that's the real conversation. That's where you really get to understand what their strength is universally across contexts is strength, or is it just in a particular situation? Skills, obvious thing. Project management is a skill. Coding is a skill. You have a whole bunch of skills that you can financial analysis, skill, cash flow analysis. All of these are skills. So what skills do you have? It's not only important to understand what skills you have in the gap analysis, but also how good are you? And how do you know you're that good? What's the benchmark? How do we know who's really good, and who did you map yourself against? And the experiences. So you may have experience being a cloud architect in a large financial services organization. So that's an experience, yes, but it has to be more detailed than that. The experience needs to be, were you part of a transformation? Did you lead a team through that experience? You ought to know in that experience what you learned, what went well, what didn't go well. And in that gap analysis, these things that we talk about, what went well, what didn't go well, how do you know you're good? How do you know what your level of proficiency is in a particular skill? And how do you know that experience it was exactly how you described it, if it was a positive experience? All of these things can be used in conversations, in interview conversations, in elevator pitches, in how you describe who you are and what you can do. So in interview situations and non-interview situations, and when you're meeting colleagues, when you're meeting a new team, they ask you about, hey, what kind of projects have you worked on? What has been your journey? You can actually point to, well, I implemented a security architecture solution for a large investment bank. It took 3 years. My role in particular was to do X, Y, Z. And in that experience, we had these barriers and challenges, but this is what we were setting out to do. And that's how I think we actually achieved what we were setting out to do. And so that's a complete experience. So how many of those experiences do you have? And I would say if you have about 10 years of work experience, you need to have about 5 of those experiences in your back pocket, and you ought to know them well. And they need to come from the inside, as in you really should have experienced them the way you're describing. So experiences are super important. And in those experiences, of course, the edge career method really is about pressure testing. So what evidence do you have that the experience was positive? The evidence that you have that it was a deep experience? What evidence do you have that experience really, really increased you in stature in terms of your professional standing? What evidence do you have? Is it what people said? Is it what you accomplished? And how does it come through in your profile, in your resume or on LinkedIn? So that's experience. Again, was it authentic? Was it pressure tested, as in what evidence do you have? Why do you think it's an experience worth talking about, et cetera? So pressure testing is built in as part of the Edge Careers method. So finally, knowledge. You may have industry knowledge. You may have knowledge about compliance. You may have knowledge about the car industry. You may have knowledge about how labs work, how quality assurance works in a pharma context. So that's knowledge, and you have it. And it could be formal or informal. Informal is through experience, and the formal can be through accreditation, licenses, what have you. But what knowledge do you have? And why do you think that knowledge is valuable? So that's the pressure testing piece. It's not enough to say, I have this knowledge. You need to say, I have this knowledge and it helps me do XYZ. And in the Edge Careers method, after every step, you say, I have knowledge of the consumer banking industry on the East Coast with medium-sized banks that have gone through mergers or have been acquired. So that is knowledge, not experience. It's knowledge. You have knowledge of that. And so then the question becomes, well, why is that valuable to someone who's interviewing you? Why is that valuable to your manager? Why is that valuable to your colleagues? And how does it position you as a subject matter expert or someone who's called upon? So how do you explain that knowledge and become that person? For example, insurance industry. Anytime a risk question comes up, suppose that's the knowledge you have, you're certified, accredited in some sort of risk analysis. So how do you make it so anytime your peers, your friends, your colleagues, or your supervisor or anyone in the industry has a question about that particular thing, how can you ensure that they'll call you? That's the application of knowledge. So knowledge is key. So again, you have your strengths, and your strengths need to be pressure tested. And then you have your experiences, then you have your skills, and then you have your knowledge. Now, you have all this, suppose you have it all jotted down, you even internalize it, you know it inside out, all four of these things. What's really important is not that you have these and that you can describe them and talk about them convincingly. What's important is that you know what's missing. What knowledge are you missing in order to get to where you want to get to? What skills are you missing? What experiences are you missing? And what are strengths that other people have who are pursuing the same outcome that you're pursuing, that same destination, that same role? What are people who are good at that role that you're pursuing? What strengths do they have that you do not? And what's even more important is, what do you do about it? Is that something that can be developed or not? Because sometimes it just can't be developed to the standard and level that you need to get to where you want to get to. So that's the gap analysis, the Edge Careers way. And I hope you got something out of it. And it's a different way of looking at your experience, especially the pressure testing, but it works. Thanks for listening.